God's chosen ones, before we go any further, let me pause and say this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. To each of you who has supported this message through super thanks, your generosity is deeply honored. Your kindness helps spread divine truth to souls in need. And for that, I'm truly grateful. Whether you've donated or not, your presence here means more than you know. You are seen. You are valued. You are appreciated. Now listen closely, chosen one. If you ignore this, don't blame God later. What you're about to receive is not just insight, it's a divine directive. This isn't just another video in your feed. This is a sacred appointment, a heavenly interruption disguised as a message, but crafted for your breakthrough. Stay with this. Don't look away. Let me ask you something your spirit has probably been whispering for years. Have you ever wondered why your burdens feel heavier than everyone else's? Why you're the one people call when they're breaking down, but you have no one to lean on yourself? Why every spiritual battle seems to land at your door while others glide through life untouched? That's not bad luck. That's not life being unfair. That's the mark of being chosen. The fact that you're hearing this now is not coincidence. It's confirmation. This is not Chronos time. It's kairos time. Sacred, strategic, supernatural. And heaven is watching to see how you respond. If your spirit is starting to stir, if something in you is saying, wait, this is about me, then go ahead and comment 999 right now as a sign that you recognize this is your divine alignment. That number isn't random. It's a prophetic signal to heaven that you're not missing your moment. Chosen one, God has been trying to reach you. That weight on your shoulders, it's not punishment, it's preparation. That season of isolation, it's not rejection, it's anointing. But here's the truth that so many miss. Your window is not open forever. The opportunity that's stretching before you is time sensitive. The moment has a name, and that name is now. Esther 4:14 makes it crystal clear. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? You weren't born into this generation by accident. You weren't given these trials without purpose. You were hand-selected to be a foundation, a pillar for your bloodline. So why do the battles always seem to find you? Why does everyone else look to you for answers, for help, for strength? Because God made you the spiritual first responder. You're not just a provider. You're not just a problem solver. You are the one heaven trusted with the blueprint to break cycles, shift timelines, and establish generational freedom. But, chosen one, let me tell you something sobering. I've seen people receive words like this before. They felt the urgency, they felt the tug, and still they said, maybe later. And the opportunity passed. The door shut. The window closed. The delay didn't just cost them, it cost everyone connected to their obedience. Don't let that be your legacy. The very battle you're in right now, the silence, the frustration, the waiting, it's not the end, it's the proving ground. Joseph's pit became his pathway to the palace. David's cave was the corridor to the crown. And your current struggle? It's forming the foundation of your rise. But make no mistake, this moment is sacred. This isn't about what you've done. It's about what heaven is trying to release through you right now. And every person attached to your calling, your family, your future children, the lives you haven't even touched yet, they are waiting on your response. Stay until the end. Heaven is still speaking. And what happens next may change your legacy forever. God's chosen ones, if you ignore this, don't blame God later. Watch before it's deleted. Why is it that the weight always finds its way to your shoulders, chosen one? Why are you the one expected to carry the fire and the water, to fix the problems no one else wants to face, to fund what others avoid, and to hold it all together when everyone else gets to fall apart. Have you ever stopped in the middle of a crisis and asked, why is it always me? Why are you the steady anchor when everyone else around you is crumbling? In the eye of the storm, when chaos erupts and uncertainty swallows the room, have you noticed how all eyes seem to turn to you, as if your presence alone promises order, as if you were appointed to be the calm in their storm, the strength in their fragility? That's not just coincidence, that's divine assignment. The pressure that presses so heavily upon you isn't a random affliction, it's not a punishment, it's confirmation. What if the pain you've been carrying was never meant to destroy you but to set you apart? You, chosen one, are not carrying this weight because you're weak. You're carrying it because God found you strong enough to bear it. And when God chooses a vessel for something sacred, He doesn't choose the comfortable, He chooses the courageous. He doesn't look for those coasting through life without responsibility. He looks for those who can carry legacy and leadership. Could it be that the fire you've walked through isn't meant to burn you, but to forge you? Could it be that your trials are the evidence of your calling, not the denial of it? Isaiah 48:10 confirms this. See, I have refined you, though not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction. So, tell me, chosen one, when was the last time someone saw you for more than your strength? When was the last time they noticed the weariness in your soul, not just the answers in your voice? Let me ask you this. Has anyone seen the real you lately? The version of you who silently holds the tears until the room is empty? The one who wipes their own face in the dark while being everyone else's light in the day? Because even if they don't see it, heaven sees it. God has been keeping record of your silent suffering. Psalm 56:8 promises, you keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You've never cried a tear that went unseen by God. Every breakdown behind closed doors, every sacrifice made in silence, every silent prayer you whispered when you were too tired to speak. Heaven documented all of it, and not one moment was wasted. Look at the blueprint God has used before. Joseph, betrayed by his own blood, sold like an object, imprisoned for what he didn't do. It wasn't the end, it was training ground for the palace. His pit became a prerequisite for the promotion. David, anointed as king, yet hunted like prey, forced to hide in caves and wilderness. Was he being forgotten? God was cultivating the heart of a leader who would one day write psalms that healed nations. Then there's Moses, born into royalty, yet exiled and silenced for decades in the desert. Was that divine abandonment? That was divine positioning. So ask yourself, are you really being punished, or are you being prepared for something no one else around you was qualified for? And don't forget modern-day examples either. Nelson Mandela endured 27 years in prison, not as punishment, but as preparation to become the leader who would unite a fractured South Africa. Oprah Winfrey, born into poverty and subjected to abuse, wasn't destroyed by hardship. She was refined through it to rise as one of the most influential voices of our generation. Malala Yousafzai, shot in the head for simply wanting an education, didn't stay a victim. She became a global advocate. And even Tyler Perry, once homeless and overlooked, became a powerhouse of media and ministry. So what about you? Could your pain be the birthplace of purpose? Now here's the warning. You need to understand the urgency of your assignment. This weight isn't meant to sit on you indefinitely without motion. There comes a moment when God calls for action. And chosen one, that moment is now. Have you ever felt a tug from the Holy Spirit? A nudge that felt like divine instruction, but you brushed it off because the timing wasn't convenient? How many times has the whisper of purpose been silenced by the noise of busyness or fear? That's not just delay, that's defiance. And the danger is this: if you keep telling God later, you may find that later never comes. Ecclesiastes 9:12 tells us, "No one knows when their hour will come." What if this very moment was the one meant to shift everything, and you sleep through it? There are generations waiting on the other side of your yes. That child you haven't yet met, that audience you've yet to speak to, that soul you were born to deliver. Every delay you make pushes back their destiny. I've spoken with elders on their deathbeds, chosen ones who once heard the call but silenced it with excuses. Their eyes were full of regret. They knew the weight they had been asked to carry, and they chose comfort over calling. Is that the story you want written about you? Remember Moses at the burning bush. "I'm not eloquent, Lord. Send someone else." But thank God he eventually obeyed. Otherwise, an entire nation might have remained in slavery. And Esther, oh, Esther. She hesitated too, until Mordecai spoke the words that should echo in your soul even now. If you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance will arise from another place. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Esther 4:14. So now the question stands before you, chosen one. Will you recognize the divine weight you've been carrying, not as a burden, but as an assignment? Will you see the fire not as punishment, but purification? Will you finally embrace the truth that your struggle is not a curse? It's confirmation that you've been chosen. Romans 5:3-4 reminds us, "We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope." What if the thing you've been trying to run from is the very thing God wants to use to launch you? Chosen one, those ancient words aren't just poetic echoes. They're a divine alarm clock ringing directly for you. Who knows but that you have come to your position for such a time as this? Don't dismiss that line as metaphor. It is heaven's way of telling you, wake up. You are exactly where I want you, and you're here now, on purpose. The enemy knows this too. He doesn't need to destroy you, he just needs to delay you. That's why he's whispered every excuse in your ear. You're too old, it's too late, you missed your chance. Let someone younger, stronger, or more prepared do it. But chosen one, can you discern the source of those whispers? They're not divine conviction, they're hell's deception. You've been lied to, but the lie only works if you believe it. Open your spirit to this truth. Joel 2:28 declares, "I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your old men will dream dreams. Your young men will see visions." Did you catch that? Not just the young. Old men will dream dreams. Why would God mention that unless he was calling seasoned vessels to lead in the final hour? Your years are not a disqualification. They're your mantle. Your scars aren't shameful. They're sacred proof of survival. God has always chosen those seasoned by time to steward his biggest assignments. Let's talk facts. Abraham wasn't called as a young man full of ambition. He was 75 when God asked him to leave everything familiar and walk into the unknown, and he obeyed. Moses wasn't appointed in his prime. He was 80 when he stepped back into Egypt to confront Pharaoh and lead a nation to freedom. Caleb, fierce in faith, didn't request his inheritance until he was 85, and he still claimed his mountain. These men weren't picked despite their age. They were picked because of it. So ask yourself, could the very thing you thought disqualified you actually be your crown? What would shift if you saw your entire life, your delays, your losses, your lessons, not as wasted time, but as divine cultivation? What if the time you thought you lost was actually God hiding you until the moment was right? Could it be that now, right now, is that moment? Isaiah 55:6 says, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call on him while he is near." That verse reveals a sobering truth. There is a season of access. There is a divine door that opens and eventually it closes. Have you ever thought, I'll answer the call tomorrow? But what if tomorrow isn't promised to that opportunity? Let me ask you something deeper. What if someone else's freedom is chained to your obedience? What if the deliverance your family's been praying for is locked behind a door that only your yes can open? Are you willing to walk away from your assignment if it means someone else remains bound? Someone's healing may be waiting on your voice. Someone's calling may only ignite once you activate yours. What if your grandchild's purpose is rooted in your decision today to rise into your calling? What if a community, an entire generation, is waiting for the wisdom, the oil, the fire that's been slowly maturing inside you? Take a moment and think of Ruth. When she chose to follow Naomi, she wasn't looking for a legacy. She was simply obeying a pull in her spirit. But what did that one act of faith produce? Ruth became the great-grandmother of King David. One decision placed her directly in the lineage of Christ. One yes from her changed the future. So what about you? What will your obedience birth? What lineage, what legacy, what move of God might be waiting on your faith to finally step forward? You may feel it even now, that tightness in your chest, that lump in your throat, the tears forming without warning. That's not just emotion, that's divine confirmation. That's heaven pressing against the veil of your ordinary life, saying, this is your time, this is your scroll, this is your assignment. Don't miss it. Don't wait until tomorrow, because tomorrow's door may already be sealed. Luke 19:44 warns, you did not recognize the time of your visitation. Will that be said of you, or will you rise and respond? History is full of people who rose to their moment and changed everything. Harriet Tubman didn't wait for perfect conditions. She walked into danger again and again to free hundreds. Colonel Sanders founded KFC at 65 after countless failures. It wasn't too late for him, it was right on time. Catherine Kuhlman, despite a painful divorce and years of doubt, became one of the most anointed healing ministers in history. Even Ray Kroc didn't step into McDonald's until age 52. The common thread? They said yes when it no longer made sense to say yes. They moved not by logic, but by calling. And you, yes, you, are standing in that same doorway. Chosen one, the question is no longer, why me? The question now is, what will your answer be? Listen closely, not with your ears, but with your spirit. That pressure you've been feeling, the way the weight never seems to let up, that spiritual resistance that meets you every time you try to move forward. It's not evidence that you're cursed. It's confirmation that you're called. You're not here to crumble under pressure. You were carefully crafted to carry something sacred. Heaven didn't assign this level of warfare to someone weak. It was handed to someone chosen. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself why your life seems to be a constant battlefield while others float through life like it's a vacation? Why you're the one people call at 2 a.m., not because they care about your rest, but because they know you carry strength that doesn't quit? Why storms seem to find you like you're wearing a spiritual bullseye? That's not random. It's divine recognition. You are the stabilizer when everything else is falling apart. You are the one God trusted with battles others couldn't survive. Why do you think the enemy has tried so hard to convince you you're weak? What if the heaviness wasn't your enemy, but your evidence? What if it wasn't punishment, but proof? Picture a house. When a doorknob breaks, it gets replaced. When paint fades, it's touched up. But the foundation, the hidden weight-bearing structure beneath it all, is tested relentlessly, because if the foundation fails, everything fails. Psalm 11:3 asks, if the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? That's you, chosen one. You are the foundation, and foundations must be tested more than anything else. They don't get praise, they don't get glory, but without them, everything crumbles. This is why your fire has been so personal. This is why your trials have names attached. Friends who betrayed you, family who left you, scars that never fully closed. Because your calling isn't general, it's generational, and the devil knows it. That's why he's tried so hard to convince you that you're a victim, because victims don't build legacies. Victims don't shift timelines. Victims don't free nations. But here's a truth you need to swallow. As long as you see yourself as a victim, you'll forfeit your mission. The minute you internalize the lie that you're powerless is the moment you hand over the authority God gave you. The enemy knows this, which is why he attacks your identity first. Because if he can confuse who you are, he can stop what you were sent to do. Moses had every excuse to fall into victimhood after fleeing Egypt, but one divine interruption at the burning bush realigned him with destiny. David could have wallowed in rejection when Saul hunted him like an animal. Instead, he leaned into his pain and gave us psalms that still cradle the broken-hearted thousands of years later. What about you, chosen one? Will your pain speak purpose, or will it be wasted in silence? Think of Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor who lost his family in the concentration camps. He could have embraced bitterness, but instead he wrote Man's Search for Meaning, a book that helped millions find purpose in suffering. Think of Bethany Hamilton, the young surfer who lost her arm to a shark attack, but chose to keep riding waves and inspire generations. Look at Inky Johnson, whose football dream ended in paralysis, yet now stands as one of the most powerful motivational speakers alive. Or Elizabeth Smart, abducted and abused, yet she rose to become an advocate and light for victims. Do you see the pattern? Pain plus purpose equals power. Chosen one, I know you're tired. I know there have been nights you whispered, God, I can't do this anymore. I know the silence has felt deafening and the weight has felt endless. But here's what you must understand. The crushing doesn't come to destroy you. It comes to reveal what's inside of you. First, Peter 1:7 tells us, these trials have come so that the proven genuineness of your faith, of greater worth than gold, may result in praise, glory, and honor. You are not ashes in the wind. You are gold in the fire. You are not being broken. You are being revealed. The world doesn't need more victims wrapped in resentment. It needs foundations forged in fire. People who will still stand when the storm rages. People who carry kingdom blueprints and refuse to fold when things get hard. That's who you are. That's why you're still here. From this moment forward, I need you to decide. Will you keep bowing under the weight, asking why it's so heavy? Or will you rise and understand that the burden you bear is actually your birthright? The moment you shift from victim to vessel, from crushed to called, everything begins to change. The weight won't vanish, but it will begin to carry purpose, direction, power. Tonight, when you're alone and the world goes quiet, I want you to imagine something. Your children, your grandchildren, and those unborn generations are standing before you. They're not asking for toys or inheritance. They're asking for testimony. They're asking, did you say yes to the calling? Did you let your pain produce oil? Or did you surrender to the pressure? Because the battles you're fighting aren't just about you. They're about them. But this brings us to something urgent, an alarm sounding straight from heaven. If ignored, it won't just cost you. It could delay deliverance for generations after you. Are you willing to let your fear, your fatigue, or your excuses steal their future? Or will you rise tonight and declare with clarity and fire, I was chosen to carry this, and I will not waste the weight. Chosen one, stop everything and lean in. This is not just another message. This isn't mere motivation or feel-good encouragement. What you're about to receive is spiritual confirmation of what your soul has suspected for years. These 5 signs aren't generic traits. They are God's fingerprints on the lives of those He marks for sacred purpose. And whether you realize it or not, these signs are written across your story too. You've seen the patterns. You've felt the weight. Now it's time to understand the divine reason behind it. Sign number 1. You suffer more intensely than others. Let's be honest. Haven't you looked around and silently asked, why is my path so steep, so relentless? Why do my storms rage harder while others seem to enjoy sunshine? This isn't misfortune. It's divine confirmation. It's not because you were forgotten, but because you were forged. God trusts you with deeper valleys because He plans to raise you to higher peaks. Your deepest pain didn't come from strangers. It came from those closest to you, just like Joseph, who was sold into slavery by his own brothers. Genesis 50:20 says, "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Have you not survived what would have destroyed someone else? That's not just strength. That's evidence of selection. Consider Corrie ten Boom, who endured the horrors of Nazi concentration camps. Her suffering could have led to lifelong bitterness. Instead, it birthed a global movement of forgiveness. She became proof that God can use our greatest wounds as vessels of the greatest healing. So, chosen one, what if your pain isn't the disqualifier, but the proof you've been pre-approved for impact? Sign number 2, you've never truly fit in. Even when the room welcomes you, your soul feels misplaced. Why is that? Why do your thoughts feel too deep, your convictions too sharp, your spirit too intense for the people around you? That dissonance isn't dysfunction, it's design. David, Israel's greatest king, was forgotten by his own father when the prophet came to anoint the next ruler. Everyone saw a shepherd. God saw a king. Psalm 118 verse 22 declares, "The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." That stone is you. When was the last time you tried to explain your calling or your burden and were met with silence or confusion? It's not because you're wrong, it's because you're ahead of time. Einstein was ridiculed for theories no one could grasp until the world caught up. Your revelation isn't flawed, it's futuristic. And until those around you grow into the vision you carry, you'll feel misunderstood. But don't shrink, don't simplify. The call on your life wasn't designed for crowd approval, it was designed for divine alignment. Sign number 3, you think generationally. While others obsess over weekend plans, your mind keeps drifting toward legacy. Even in your darkest nights, there's a fire inside you whispering, you must keep going. It's bigger than you. Why do your choices weigh more heavily? Why do your decisions always seem to echo into the future? That's not overthinking. That's divine foresight. Joseph didn't just prepare Egypt for a season. He stored grain for a generation. Genesis 41:49 says, Joseph stored up huge quantities of grain, like the sand of the sea, beyond measure. He wasn't thinking day to day, he was thinking decade to decade, just like you. Every time you choose healing over bitterness, every time you speak life when death would be easier, you're storing spiritual grain for those who will come after you. Think of Ruth Bell Graham, wife of evangelist Billy Graham. She once said, "If I take care of my character, my reputation will take care of itself." She lived with eternity in mind, understanding that quiet, consistent obedience would echo for generations. That's the kind of vision you carry. It didn't come from ego, it came from heaven. Sign number 4, you've been robbed deeply. This one cuts differently, doesn't it? Somewhere in your journey, someone you trusted completely, maybe family, maybe someone you mentored, maybe someone you loved, turned against you. And the pain didn't just hurt, it redirected your whole life. Betrayal wasn't just emotional, it rearranged everything. But hear this, betrayal is often the back door to your destiny. John 1:11 says, "He came to his own, and his own did not receive him." Jesus was betrayed by Judas, a friend, a disciple, someone who shared the table. If betrayal could touch the perfect Son of God, why are you shocked that it touched you? And yet, Jesus didn't just survive it, he fulfilled his mission through it. That betrayal that altered your plans, it actually aligned you with purpose. Like Joseph again, what his brothers meant for harm became the very platform God used to raise him up. Chosen one, don't curse the betrayal. It revealed who was never meant to walk with you into your next level. Sign number 5, you carry an invisible mission you can't explain. All your life you've felt something stirring, a whisper, a pull, an ache that says you were made for more. Not more fame, not more money, but more meaning. Even when life tried to bury that fire, it never fully went out. You've questioned it, you've denied it, you've tried to silence it, but it keeps calling. Moses said to God in Exodus 3:11, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" He didn't feel qualified, neither do you. But God doesn't choose the qualified, he qualifies the chosen. That calling that haunts you is not imagination, it's activation. Harriet Tubman couldn't read or write, but she felt a divine assignment so deeply that she risked her life again and again to set others free. She said, "I freed 1,000 slaves, and I could have freed 1,000 more if only they knew they were slaves." Her sense of mission wasn't given in a classroom, it was birthed in fire. So is yours. Now hear this, chosen one. If even one of these signs resonated, this is not coincidence, it's confirmation. But confirmation without commitment leads to regret. Knowing that you're marked means nothing if you never move. What you do with this revelation will shape the course of your future, and possibly the future of many others. Chosen one, hear me. This is not just another message to scroll past or save for later. This is a divine warning, a spiritual line in the sand. What you choose to do with what I'm about to share doesn't just affect you, it affects the trajectory of entire bloodlines. This is about your legacy, your obedience, your assignment, and whether it will be fulfilled through you or rerouted around you. The urgency you're feeling right now isn't emotional hype. It's heaven trying to get your full attention before it's too late. Have you ever felt that gentle but persistent nudge in your spirit? That inner whisper that keeps tugging at your heart? That reoccurring dream or divine idea that shows up when you're most still, most quiet, most vulnerable? And what have you said in response? "Not now, Lord. Maybe tomorrow. Let me get more stable. Let me feel more ready." But chosen one, that delay wasn't innocent. That wasn't just procrastination. That was spiritual rebellion dressed in politeness. Your hesitation is not neutral. It is disobedience in disguise. And here's the truth. What you bury today in fear, your children may have to battle tomorrow in tears. Take a sobering look at Matthew 25, the parable of the talents. 3 servants, 3 assignments. The master gave them resources based on their ability. One received 5 talents, another 2, and the last received 1. The first 2 multiplied what they were given, but the third, he dug a hole. He buried his gift in fear. He hid his potential in the dirt. He thought playing it safe was wisdom, but what did the master say to him? Not, "You tried your best." Not, "I understand your fear." But, "You wicked, lazy servant." That man wasn't judged for stealing. He wasn't condemned for harming others. He was judged because he did nothing. Let that sink in. You don't have to rebel outwardly to fail God. Sometimes doing nothing is the most dangerous rebellion of all. So, I ask you directly, what gifts has God placed in your hands that are now buried beneath your insecurity? What calling have you ignored because it felt too heavy or too costly? What ministry have you delayed because stepping into it would disrupt your comfort? Chosen one, this isn't just about missing out on blessings. This is about assignments being aborted and battles being passed down. Exodus 25 gives us a chilling reminder. I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, punishing the children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. What you neglect now doesn't disappear. It multiplies. Your delay becomes someone else's warfare. Your silence becomes someone else's bondage. Think about this. What if someone's breakthrough is stuck behind your obedience? What if someone's healing is waiting on your yes? What if a nation is waiting, and the only thing holding back the floodgates is your decision to finally step into your purpose? You are not just carrying your own destiny, you are the access code to someone else's deliverance. Romans 8:19 says, "For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed." Creation is waiting on you to show up. This isn't about ego, this is about alignment. Let me remind you, Moses tried to opt out. He said, "Lord, I'm not a good speaker. Choose someone else." But God didn't accept his excuses. Why? Because Miriam's worship, Aaron's ministry, and Israel's entire freedom were tied to Moses' obedience. What if Moses had insisted on staying comfortable? How many lives would have stayed in chains while he lived in mediocrity? Maybe you're thinking, I'm just one person. What difference can I make? But was Esther an army? Number. She was a young woman with a decision. One courageous choice in the right moment changed the course of history. Mordecai told her, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther 4:14. Chosen one, your such a time as this moment is right now. Here's what you must understand. God's plans will advance, with or without you. That's not in question. The only question is, will you allow him to move through you, or will he be forced to move around you? When was the last time you felt that divine stirring? That passion that makes you weep when no one else understands? That idea that won't leave you alone, no matter how much you try to dismiss it? How long have you been saying, "I'll answer tomorrow"? But James 4:17 warns us, if anyone knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. Delay is not harmless. Delay is spiritual warfare against your own purpose. The enemy doesn't need to destroy you outright. He just needs to keep you waiting. And while you wait, doors close, promises stall, and chains remain locked. But here's the part. The devil never wants you to remember. It's not too late. The door is still open. Heaven hasn't revoked your assignment. The oil can still flow. The fire can still fall. You can still rise. You can still move. And the moment you do, everything begins to realign. Just like William Wilberforce, who fought for decades, despite illness, opposition, and fatigue, to abolish the slave trade in Britain. His obedience changed history. Or Florence Nightingale, who overcame ridicule and rejection to redefine modern healthcare and bring compassion to the forgotten. They weren't superheroes. They were available, obedient, chosen. Chosen one, the time for spiritual procrastination is over. Heaven is no longer whispering, it's roaring. This is your moment of decision, and it carries eternal weight. What happens next in your life isn't just about you. It's about every life divinely connected to your purpose, both born and unborn. The ripple effect of your choices will shape destinies, rewrite bloodlines, and determine whether chains are broken or passed down. This isn't just personal, it's prophetic. The real question isn't whether God can accomplish his will. He will. He always has. The real question is, will your name be written among those who said yes when heaven called? Will you be remembered as someone who rose when the time came, or someone who froze in fear while the window quietly closed? But before you answer with a quick, "Yes, Lord," you need to pause and understand something sacred about the burden you've been carrying all this time. Look at your own life. Really look. Has it ever felt like you were carrying more than your fair share? Do you wake up some mornings already weary, wondering why you are the one holding everything together while having no one to hold you? Have you secretly asked God, why do I always feel like the strong one, for everyone else but myself? Let this truth pierce through your fatigue and reach your spirit. There is a divine reason why your life has felt different, harder, more intense. You have been entrusted with sacred weight. You were chosen to be a foundation, not a decoration. Foundations aren't visible. They don't get applause, but they carry the structure that others depend on. And God doesn't build foundations with the fragile. He builds them with the fortified. And yet, here is where so many chosen ones fall into a trap. You've been asking the wrong question. Why me, God? Sounds noble, but it's actually rooted in fatigue and spiritual misunderstanding. The better question, the anointed question, is this: Lord, how do I steward this responsibility you've given me? Victimhood may feel comforting for a season, but it is spiritual poison to someone called to lead. Understand this clearly. The moment you view yourself as a victim of your circumstances is the exact moment you surrender the power God placed within you. And guess who knows this better than anyone? The enemy. That's why victimhood is his favorite tool. It doesn't need to be loud. It just needs to be effective. If he can convince you that you're powerless, he never has to fight you at full strength, because you've already forfeited. Philippians 4:13 reminds you, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's not a refrigerator magnet. That is spiritual ammunition. That is your war cry. Speak it when the weight feels crushing. Declare it when the path feels impossible. Whisper it when you're surrounded by silence. Shout it when everyone else walks away. Think of Moses, taken from his family as a baby, raised in a palace that wasn't his, then exiled into the wilderness after a violent mistake. When God appeared in the burning bush, Moses had every reason to say no. Every reason to feel unqualified, broken, forgotten. And yet, despite the fear in his voice, he said yes. And that yes split the Red Sea. That yes birthed freedom for a nation. Or look at David, forgotten in the field, overlooked by his father, hunted by Saul, betrayed by his own blood. He had caves for bedrooms and battles for breakfast, but instead of giving in to self-pity, he gave birth to Psalms. Instead of complaining about Goliath, he faced him. His crown didn't come through comfort, it came through courage. And Esther, an orphan, a woman, a foreigner in a hostile palace, she had every reason to stay silent, every reason to self-protect. But when the moment came, she made a decision that changed everything. If I perish, I perish. She didn't see her position as privilege. She saw it as purpose. And because of that, an entire people was saved. Now let me ask you this, chosen one, how many destinies have been aborted because someone couldn't move past the question, why me? How many families are still living under cycles of addiction, abuse, and poverty because the one person anointed to break it kept waiting for someone else to go first? How many businesses were never started, ministries never launched, and movements never birthed because the chosen vessel said, I'm too tired, I'm too broken, I'm too scared. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you to win. He just needs you to hesitate. He just needs you to internalize that you're not ready, that someone else is more qualified, that your moment can wait. But it can't. Do you understand that by choosing obedience, Moses didn't just change his life, he shifted generations? That by facing Goliath, David didn't just win a battle, he launched a kingdom? That by stepping into the throne room, Esther didn't just save her people, she stepped into the eternal pages of divine history. And what about you? What future is depending on you saying yes today? What purpose is waiting on you to stop asking, why me, and start asking, what now? Because here's the truth, the burden you carry isn't punishment, it's prophecy. It means you've been marked to carry something heavy because what's coming from you will be unshakable. Chosen one, hear me now, and don't just listen with your ears, listen with your soul. You are not a victim, you are a vessel. You are not being crushed, you are being crowned. You are not falling apart, you are being forged. You are not breaking down, you are being built up for something greater than anything your past can explain. This moment isn't about weakness, it's about identity. You weren't chosen because you were the most popular, the most talented, or the most visible. You were chosen because you could carry what others would collapse under. Tonight, when the noise quiets and you're left with your thoughts, I want you to imagine something. Your children, your grandchildren, and generations not even born yet, standing before you. They're not asking for toys or explanations. They're looking into your eyes and asking, why did you give up? Why did you choose comfort over calling? Why did you let our future die because the weight was too much? Can you feel the weight of that question? That's what's at stake. This is bigger than your survival. It's about their freedom. So now, chosen one, what will you choose? Will you continue to live as if your pain is pointless? Or will you rise as the leader you were born to be? You've been asking God why the burden feels so heavy, when the real question is, how do I carry it with excellence? Because the weight confirms the assignment. The pressure reveals the promise. The burden is great because your purpose terrifies the enemy. Understand this. Isolation has never been your enemy. It's been your training ground. God separates foundations from the crowd because foundations must be built in silence, far from applause. Foundations aren't glamorous, but they're vital. You were never built to break. You were built to lead. Think of Moses, who split seas. Think of David, who slayed giants. Think of Esther, who risked everything to save a nation. And now, think of you. You were born to carry the kind of weight that would have crushed anyone else. You were born to shift destinies. So rise. Rise like the cornerstone God has shaped you into. Stop asking why the pressure found you and start asking how to harness it for purpose. Stop resenting the weight and start building the strength. Stop waiting to be rescued and realize you are the rescuer your family line has been waiting for. God didn't choose you because you were perfect. He chose you because you carry what others don't see but desperately need. The world doesn't need more people living in victimhood. It needs pillars of truth. It needs builders of legacy. It needs you, awakened, aligned, and anointed for such a time as this. The question is no longer, why me? The question now is, who are you to say no when God has already said yes? So let me ask you something that might shake your entire framework. Are you just surviving, or are you building? Look around. Bills, health concerns, relational tension, uncertainty. But chosen one, that's not why God marked you. You weren't called to live paycheck to paycheck, prayer to prayer, crisis to crisis. That's maintenance. You were chosen for multiplication. There are two types of chosen ones walking the earth today. Those who live day to day trying to keep the lights on, and those who shift atmospheres, break cycles, and establish spiritual dynasties. Which one are you? Let's go back to Joseph. When he stood before Pharaoh and interpreted the dream, he didn't just warn about the famine, he planned for it. Genesis 41:48 says, Joseph collected all the food produced in those 7 years of abundance in Egypt and stored it in the cities. He built systems. He didn't just save his family, he sustained nations. But here's the tragedy I see in too many of God's chosen ones today. You're so busy fighting today's battle, you've forgotten to plan for tomorrow's war. You're so busy providing, you've stopped thinking about multiplying. You're putting out fires instead of building altars, and the enemy loves it. The enemy doesn't just want you broke today. He wants your bloodline broken. He wants your children to inherit struggle instead of strength. He wants your grandchildren to start at the bottom. instead of standing on your shoulders. That's why, when you lie awake at night thinking about bills and burdens, what's really keeping you up isn't the surface stuff. It's your spirit calling out, "Am I leaving enough behind?" Because, chosen one, you weren't just born with survival instinct. You were born with generational vision. Proverbs 13:22 says, "A good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children." Not just his children, his children's children. That's generational multiplication. That's spiritual investment. So, let me ask you something direct, something sharp. If you were to die tonight, what would your grandchildren inherit? Not just in your bank account, but in your faith, in your story, in your wisdom, in your authority. Would they walk on solid ground, or would they have to start from scratch? You weren't created just to survive life. You were chosen to establish something that will outlive you. You weren't called just to make ends meet. You were anointed to build systems, wealth, wisdom, and spiritual legacy. Look again at Moses. He didn't enter the promised land, but he led a generation to it. His influence reached people he never met. Why? Because his obedience wasn't about his comfort, it was about their future. Every spiritual battle you're fighting right now is shaping the inheritance your descendants will walk in. Every decision you make, every dollar you save, every prayer you pray, every stronghold you break, is setting patterns and preparing altars for people you will never meet. Every tear you cry in private is watering seeds your grandchildren will harvest. The enemy doesn't fear your survival. He fears your multiplication. He fears when you wake up and realize your decisions echo through eternity. Joseph gathered grain in years of plenty to preserve life in years of famine. Chosen one, the time for merely existing has ended. This is no longer a season for spiritual stagnation or emotional survival. What begins now is the age of spiritual empire builders, the ones God handpicked not to survive, but to establish legacies that last beyond their breath. You were not called to scrape by. You were chosen to lay foundations. You weren't designed to just get through hardship. You were born to build through it with supernatural strength. And one day, when the dust of your earthly journey settles, there will be a question written in the wind. What will they say about you? Will your name be whispered as someone who provided for the moment, or declared as one who prepared the way for generations? In the currency of heaven, provision satisfies today, but multiplication seeds tomorrow's destiny. Right now, something is rising in your spirit, a sacred unrest with mediocrity, a divine dissatisfaction with just getting by. That's not confusion. That's your calling being stirred. That's not emotional noise. That's your assignment waking up. And what comes next is not coincidence, it's choreography. You've been divinely led to this moment of activation. Not next year, not after you get it together. This moment is the turning point you've been sensing in your spirit. There comes a rare moment in every soul's journey when heaven stops and waits for your response. You are in one of those moments now. This is not another message to click away from. It is not something to bookmark for later. This is divine interruption, crafted by heaven, written with your name etched in gold. Do you feel the weight of that? Of all the millions of messages you could have seen, you're reading this now. This is not chronos, time. This is kairos, sacred, appointed, non-repeatable. Some doors only swing open once. Think about Ruth. When Naomi told her to turn back, she faced a crossroads. Ruth could have returned to comfort and familiarity, but she chose legacy. Where you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. That single decision grafted her into the lineage of Jesus. Did she understand the scope of it? Number. She simply recognized the sacredness of the moment and acted. David saw his kairos moment when others only saw a giant. While trained soldiers shook with fear, one shepherd boy stepped forward with nothing but 5 smooth stones. Did he know he'd become king? Not then. He simply knew this moment required action. Esther, too, stood in her divine moment when she heard Mordecai say, "Who knows if you've come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Her response was not cautious, it was courageous. "If I perish, I perish." Now shift your focus to your own story. Think of the weight you've carried, the silence you've endured, the responsibilities you shoulder while others walk freely, the invisible wars you've fought while those around you sleep. Why does it always fall to you? Why are you the one who stays and stands when others flee? Because you weren't randomly assigned this life. You were appointed for this hour, before the foundation of the world. But never forget this. Being chosen is not a guarantee of fulfillment. Many are called. Few follow through. Jonah was called and ran. Others stood before their own Red Sea and turned back toward Egypt instead of lifting the staff God placed in their hand. If you're reading this now, it's not random. It's invitation, but like the 10 virgins in Matthew 25, when the door closes, it closes. When the bridegroom arrived, 5 were ready, 5 were not. The unprepared begged for entry, but the answer they received was final. "Truly, I say to you, I do not know you." That was not spoken to criminals. That was said to the unprepared. Reflect on this carefully. What if everything in your life, the betrayal, the crushing, the long nights, the unanswered prayers, was never punishment, but divine preparation for this exact moment? What if the harder path you've walked wasn't about delay, but about the kind of development that only pressure could produce? Isaiah 55:6 urges us, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near." Don't overlook the urgency in that word, while. It tells us the door does not stay open forever. It tells us there is a divine now, and you're standing in it. Heaven has arranged every detail to bring you here, right now. The only question that remains is how you'll respond. Will you rise like Ruth? Will you step forward like David? Will you risk everything like Esther? Or will you join the quiet crowd who stood at destiny's doorway and turned away, forever haunted by what could have been? This is your kairos moment, and God has done his part. The next move is yours. Think deeply. When was the last time you felt truly seen? Not thanked for what you do, not admired for how strong you seem, but seen for the weight you carry, for the tears you cry when no one is watching, for the strength it takes just to wake up and hold everything together. The kind of recognition your soul aches for. I need you to know this. God sees you. He hasn't overlooked your pain. He's been shaping you through it. That weight you felt crushing you wasn't condemnation. It was confirmation. Heaven trusts you with what would shatter others. Joseph's betrayal wasn't random. David's exile wasn't punishment. Moses' wilderness wasn't wasted. And your wilderness has not been in vain. Philippians 1:6 reminds us, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." That means if God started it, he's already made provision to finish it. But understand this, before the crown comes the cave, before the throne comes the fire, before the promise comes the pressing. Gold is not found, it's refined. Diamonds are not born, they're formed under pressure. What if your isolation wasn't neglect but protection? What if your heartbreak wasn't random but choreography from heaven? What if the very things you thought were setbacks were actually sacred setups? Romans 5:3-4 declares, "We glory in our sufferings because suffering produces perseverance, perseverance character, and character hope." The pain had a purpose, and the enemy's greatest fear is that you'll finally see it. Chosen one, there's something heaven urgently needs you to understand right now, something that will cause every tear, every unanswered question, every silent night to suddenly make sense. You've come so far, carried so much, and endured more than most even realize. But here is the divine truth. Not every door that God opens stays open forever. There are moments in life, rare, holy moments, where heaven doesn't move until you do. This isn't just another inspirational message. This is your kairos moment. Not ordinary time, but appointed time. Sacred, strategic, sovereign. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "There is a time for everything and a season for every purpose under heaven." But here's the part they don't often teach. Some seasons only come once. Some doors, if ignored, do not swing open again. Some divine appointments are not rescheduled. And the weight you've been carrying, the pressure you've been feeling, that's not a burden without meaning. That's heaven signaling urgency. That's your destiny tapping on your shoulder. Consider your life. Look at the responsibilities that always fall on your shoulders while others drift freely. Why are you always the one called to be strong, to hold it all together, to keep everyone afloat? Why do you always have to walk through fire while others get to dance in the rain? Because long before time began, you were chosen for this very hour. But never forget, being chosen is not the same as walking in completion. There must be response. Ruth had one decision: to follow Naomi or return to the familiar. Her decision placed her in the lineage of the Messiah. David had one moment to face Goliath. That one moment launched him from anonymity to anointing. Esther had one moment to risk it all for a nation. "If I perish, I perish." Her courage saved generations. But the Bible also warns us of what happens when response is delayed. In Matthew 25, the 5 foolish virgins weren't ready when their moment came. The bridegroom arrived, and they were found empty, unprepared. And when they finally returned, the door was closed. Not because God was cruel, but because they missed the window. The words they heard still haunt the spirit. "Truly, I do not know you." How many believers today are sitting on divine callings they keep postponing? Tomorrow, Lord, next year, when I'm more stable, when life settles down. But heaven's doors don't always remain propped open. The divine opportunity vanishes like mist in morning sun. What was meant to shift generations is left unrealized. That cannot be your story. Right now, at this very moment, your eyes are reading these words, and that is not coincidence. That is divine orchestration. Out of millions of voices, millions of messages, you were guided to this one. Why? Because heaven is handing you an invitation, not a suggestion, not an option, an invitation with your name on it. Everything you've endured wasn't wasted. The heartbreaks weren't pointless, the battles weren't random. The suffering you've endured was training for authority. The opposition was preparation for promotion. The loneliness was separation for purpose. Every night you wept, every morning you rose in silence while others saw nothing. That was consecration. The pressure hasn't been punishment, it's been positioning. Right now, someone reading this has been pleading with God for a sign, and this is your sign. For someone else, you've been begging for direction, and this is your direction. And for one weary soul on the brink of giving up completely, this is why you survived this moment. Please do not wait until the door closes to recognize what you had access to. Don't spend the rest of your life in the torment of what if. Don't join the chorus of those who once stood at heaven's threshold and turned back out of fear or comfort or hesitation. Isaiah 55:6 says, "Seek the Lord while he may be found. Call upon him while he is near." That word "while" is not passive. It's a holy warning, a limited time window. Heaven is near, the door is open, but it will not remain open forever. Chosen one, pay close attention. This isn't just another prayer, another video, another message to watch and move on from. This is a supernatural activation. This is the point in the story where everything begins to shift. Think about all those nights you cried out to God, asking if He still heard you. Think about the years you've tithed faithfully, served without applause, believed without visible results. Think about how many times you felt invisible while carrying burdens silently. Now hear this. The delay wasn't denial, it was divine defense. God wasn't ignoring your prayers. He was preparing something so weighty, so explosive, that the enemy has fought it tooth and nail to keep it from reaching you. But now it's at the threshold, and all of heaven is waiting. So what will you do? Will you hesitate again? Or will you rise right now, knowing deep in your spirit, this is the moment I was born for? Chosen one, as we come to the close of this sacred encounter, let this truth echo in your spirit one final time. You were never just meant to survive. You were appointed to build. You weren't placed on this earth to repeat generational pain. You were born to break it. You're not late. You haven't missed it. You are right on divine time. Look at your life. Look at what you've already endured. The burdens that would have broken others, you've carried them. The storms that would have drowned weaker souls, you've stood in the midst of them. The betrayals that would have left others shattered, you survived and kept walking. That was never random. That was divine preparation. Like Joseph once said in Genesis 50:20, what was meant for evil, God meant for good. And that still rings true for you. Every ounce of pain you've walked through was molding you. Every season of silence was strengthening you. Every unseen battle has built a spiritual foundation that cannot be shaken. Your burden is becoming your breakthrough. And listen closely, this message didn't reach you by chance. You didn't watch this far because of curiosity. This was a divine appointment. Your soul recognized this moment even before your mind fully understood. That's the confirmation. That's the sign you've been asking for. I want you to know, with everything in me, that you are not alone in this. There is a growing army of chosen ones around the world, people who carry silent weight, people who walk with God-given fire in their bones. We are standing with you, praying alongside you, fighting battles you don't have to fight alone. You're part of something bigger, something eternal, something kingdom-born. So now, what will you do with this moment? Will you shrink back into survival mode? Or will you stand tall in your God-given identity? Because you weren't called to be a victim, you were chosen to be a vessel of glory. Let us seal this together in prayer. Heavenly Father, I lift up this precious chosen one who stayed until the very end of this message. You see the weight they've carried. You know the moments they've cried in silence. You've watched them serve, give, believe, often when they had nothing left to offer but faith. Lord, I ask right now for supernatural visitation. Let your presence rush in like a healing wind. Where there's been exhaustion, send divine strength. Where there's been scarcity, release abundance. Where there's been heartbreak, bring restoration. Where there's been fear, flood them with courage. Break every generational curse that has lingered over their bloodline. Uproot every lie that has whispered they're not enough. Cancel every delay the enemy tried to impose. Accelerate every promise you've placed in their heart. God, raise them up in full authority. Let favor chase them down. Let every room they enter recognize what heaven already knows. They are anointed, appointed, and undeniably chosen for such a time as this. We thank you, Lord, for the mantle on their life. Now, let it be activated fully. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. If this message stirred something in your soul, I invite you to share it with someone who's been carrying weight in silence. That strong friend who's always checking on others. That quiet warrior who's forgotten their scene. Your share could be the very lifeline they've been praying for. And if you feel led, you can support this work by donating through Super Thanks. Every contribution helps us reach more souls. But whether you give or not, please know this from the depths of my heart. I'm deeply grateful for your presence. Just by watching, just by receiving, you've honored this divine message, and I thank you. Before you go, don't forget to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. The next message might carry the very key that unlocks your next season, and I want to walk that journey with you. Chosen one, you are seen, you are covered, you are deeply, fiercely loved. What's ahead is greater than what's behind, and your faithfulness in this moment is speaking louder in heaven than you realize. Now go, rise up with boldness, step forward in power, because heaven is watching and history is waiting. Until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace.